The following program is rated TV MAL. It contains strong language and is intended only for mature audiences.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another brand new episode of the Top Roast Podcast. If you do not know who the hell I am, you should know I'm Black. I'm the boss on Big and Bell. This whole operation of ours called Off the Top Roast Podcast. Thank you all the listeners, subscribers. Make sure you hit that like, share, subscribe button, notifications bell, leave a comment below. Let us know what you feel. Let us know what you rocking with, what you don't rock with, the whole 9 yards. Before we even get to that, you know what I'm saying? YouTube, Anchor, Google, anything that I post right in this bubble is where you can find us. Please hit that like, share, subscribe. I've said this to you before. Facebook groups, Twitter, Instagram is where you can find our social media handles as well. And I don't think there's any more videos I really have to talk about. Today is AfterDark. Reminds my harmony. Yeah, this is where we're gonna go and have a nice little sit-down interview with one of the top rising stars, the last prodigy. The last prodigy, Dios, is in the building with me today. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Dios Salvador is in the building with me today, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you show them the same love, support, and recognition that you would give each and every person that been on this podcast. First things first, how are you doing today, buddy?
Well, we're up here at the wrestling dojo right now. That's what you hear going on in the background, man.
And right now, and this is why we love this sport. So you're training in the wrestling dojo right now. How's it been for you since you've been in this far? And what wrestling dojo are you at right now?
It's good because at least you're staying active. You know what I mean? You're keeping the body lubed up and in ring condition. See, we're getting warmed up right now. Behind us, got him running the ropes a little bit. One of our talents. But you know, me, I took a long layoff, so I stepped away from the business for about 13 years. You know,
really?
Just got back in and just passing on knowledge to the younger generation and whatever I can give back to the business. You know, because a lot of guys come through and you take, you know, but we have to give back.
Yes, sir. So, I mean, a lot of people are known to be as both, but mainly, like you just said, certain people that would just come and take shit and then they'll never get back, or vice versa. But I can definitely tell from your persona, you're definitely a person that wants to give back to something that you truly believe in, truly that you love, which is professional wrestling. You said that you've been away for 13 years. How come the long hiatus?
Life, man. Life kind of happened, you know. Back in 08, you know, I was a young man and I ended up having a kid and starting a family. Life came at me, got me a little, you know, got into a little bit of trouble in 08 and didn't have a really good support structure around me. So, you know, kind of stepped away and had to put some things in priority, but was always there, you know. So was started my training under Lou Marconi, finished it under Josh Prohibition, and furthered it under JT Lightning, the late great. And just been privileged to be around, and you know, my hard work paid off while I was in the business. You know, got to work with the likes of like Ray Rowe, Johnny Gargano, Chris Sabin, Matt Stryker, Josh Prohibition, Matt Cross. You know, a lot of household names, especially in the indie level or even on the big scale, like, you know, Johnny Gargano and Ray Rowe. You know, Eric the Viking Raider. You know, so and. That's why it's good to have a support structure, as bad as it can be sometimes in the business. But, you know, it's good to have, you know, your little clique or your wolf pack or, you know, your elites around you, you know, to keep you focused, you know, because sometimes wrestling is really what kept me focused when I was a young man, you know, just like anything, you know, it can keep you off the streets. It can keep you out of trouble, you know, to an extent. You just got to stay focused, you know. Yes, so that's kind of what it was. And then kind of was going back to some wrestling shows, went back and started revisiting some indie shows and talking to some younger talent. Went back to some promotions that I worked for previously, and you know, a lot of them were still watching me on DVD. You know, kind of gave me the itch to get back into it. You know, then I got back into it and realized it was kind of like riding on a bike for me. Was born to do it.
Now, would you consider yourself like an urban legend in the independent scene right now because of the long hiatus, but people are still watching your stuff on DVDs nonetheless? Now, let me remind you, on DVDs. It's slowly coming to non-existent right now. So everyone is bumping MP4 files with it going on iTunes and buying the movies on there and stuff like that. But you know, you can see yourself like an urban legend in this case because of this.
You know, around more or less maybe around like Cleveland, you know, in the Northeast Ohio region, you know. Is where I did a lot of my work and, laid a lot of my bricks and roads, wrestling for Cleveland All Pro, Absolute Intense back in the days, or CCW before they were AIW. Wrestled a few times over at Mega back when they were first starting up, when they were early in their phases. New Era and out in Pennsylvania and stuff like that. Got to work with a lot of good people, John McChesney. Just recently in my second little chapter here, got to wrestle someone that I was in the business with, but been around a lot, but never got to work with really when I was J-Rock. We worked one time, so got to wrestle with him. We worked a little program out in Indiana, and that was really good. That was really fun. So it's good, man. It's great. I'll take whatever respect I get. If I'm an afterthought, I'm an afterthought. When it comes to getting into those ropes, though, there's some guys bigger, there's some guys stronger, there might be some guys that are faster, there's some guys that can jump higher. There's very few better though. So
understand. Yeah, I totally understand that. So, because when I'm still stuck on the 13-year hiatus part, right? Because some of the fans, they're going to talk about the CM Punk situation. CM Punk has been away for 7 years, away because he lost his drive for wrestling. But then AEW comes to fruition, blah, 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 blah. As time progresses on, he ends up coming back. Now, 7 years compared to 13 years, taking bumps, it's got to take some damage on the body. How do you get mentally prepared, even after all this time, to be like, yo, even after 13 years, I'm going to go right back in there. I don't know how my body is going to take it, but we're going to have to do
this. Definitely. Some guys are born to do it. I see I was born to do it, was passionate about it when I was a kid, made me even go and do high school wrestling just to get into condition for professional wrestling. I couldn't find a professional wrestling school, it kind of stumbled upon me, the business stumbled upon me.
Yeah.
But that hiatus, it's what we call being in ring shape, which is keeping that inflammation in your joints down, just keeping your body used to that. That's definitely something that you have to get back accustomed to. And when you're 35 compared to being 21, 22, 24, 25, it's a big difference, and Father Time's undefeated, stand the test of time, so
yes.
you just become wiser, it's not about doing less, sometimes when I was growing up, you always heard, you do, less is more was always the thing. It's not necessarily less is more, but you get more out of less, and you kind of learn that, when you learn how to pace yourself. And we throw around terms like the bump card. Everybody's got a bump card, and you only got so many numbers, so many bumps on that bump card. And once you hit that last bump, that's it. You're like Arn Anderson, and that's it. That's the last bump you can take, So CM Punk, he looks like a guy just, who was born to do it, passionate about it. I was in the indie ranks when he was coming up, and, when he was indie star, I was coming up and fresh in the business, so he was a guy that you always looked to, that wasn't a WWF guy or a WCW guy that you try to model yourself after. Was like a CM Punk, a Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles. These were guys that you looked to because they weren't your typical 6'5" giant, bodybuilder giant. You're just hardworking, put in the effort, love the business, love wrestling, and they're going to make something happen, So if you have the drive and you have the determination, anything's possible, anything's possible. So I don't think the layoff will hurt him. I think you'll see a little bit of a different version of him, and compared to his matches, but he's still capable of putting out anything that he was. It's like that old country song. I might not be as good as I once was, but I'm as good as I ever was, Yeah,
we definitely ain't no spring chickens anymore, So that's, as you just said, Father Time kicks in for a lot of people. The body might change up a lot more as time do progress, and then sometimes the bust might get a little bit too much. So I respect what he's doing, but I'm also respecting what you're doing, because 13 years, that's also an unlucky number. 13, because of Friday the 13th and all this other type of shit. So that's kind of like a coincidental number, because we just got past Halloween. You know what I mean? So that's kind of, so I was like, that's kind of eerie that you said that number. I'm like, okay, cool. So, yeah, but just the difference between 7 and 13 years is still a lot. But I still commend you for getting back into the groove of it, getting that pulse back of what you love. And there's still people out there in their 30s like myself that's still trying to get their asses in the wrestling ring too. What advice would you give me? What advice would you give the other people?
The big thing is if you've never done it and you're coming in with the perception of, wrestling is fake, you're going to be rudely awoken.
Mhm.
You know, there's no
Mhm.
strings, there's no trampolines. You know, what you do in here is a risk. It's a combat sport. You know, regardless if it's sports entertainment, it's still a combat sport. You know, and when you
Absolutely.
approach it with that respect and you're willing to put in the effort, you can do stuff. You know, wrestlers come in all shapes and sizes. You know, that's the great thing. You know, there's small wrestlers, there's strong wrestlers, there's big guy wrestlers, there's and everywhere in between. You know, one of our students, who's a young kid, came in with that kind of a perception. You know, he says, "Oh, I want to be like Bray Wyatt." But like, you got to understand, Bray Wyatt's a third generation wrestler, and even though he's a big guy, he moves faster than I do. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be athletic, and as long as you're willing to put in the work, as with anything, any craft, any trade, anything, if you put in the work pays off. You know.
Exactly. So this is for the
And
people out there that's just like me. Keep thinking about that bullshit. I keep telling y'all from before. As much people that don't like the whole phrase that wrestlers fake shit, I'm like, bro, these guys and girls going their asses in the ring. You might never know. Your main one job is we're gonna walk out the same way that we walked in.
exactly, it's the number one responsibility of every worker.
And that is a rule in wrestling. So
Yep.
people cannot say, "Oh, this thing is this, that, this, and the third." But these people are throwing their bodies around like rag dolls for your entertainment. So don't fucking go there and thinking that this shit is the F word.
Yeah, the F word. You know what I mean? No, it's definitely not.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I respect you. You know what I'm saying? I've been a wrestling fan all my life, so I understood the psychology, the terminology as I got older. That's when I started respecting it a lot more because I'm like, you can't see basketball players do it. You'll see like, do that type of shit. Mine's Karl Malone and Dennis Rodman. That was only one match off, and then that's really just it. But if you're not doing on a consistent basis for years, then that whole thing right there does not mean shit to me.
And sometimes what gets lost in the training, or what gets lost in when we're teaching the next generation and the young guys coming up, is that in every sport, in every profession, because at the end of the day, we're professional wrestlers, you know, and that's first and foremost is professional. You know, if you're a professional boxer, if you're a professional MMA, you're a professional kickboxer, you're a professional NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB. At the end of the day, you don't go out there to hurt somebody. You know, even if you're boxing, you might go out there to inflict damage. You go out there to win. You don't go out there to kill somebody, you know, or maim somebody, you know, because you're professional. That's what sets us apart from the mindless brutes that just bang it out in the streets. You know what I mean? For those of us who grew up in the streets, you know. But you know, we are professional. We're professional wrestlers, and at the end of the day, for us to be professional wrestlers, we got to be able to go out here and continue to wrestle. And if I end your career, I take your profession away from you, and that's wrong on every level. You know what I'm saying? So, and it has nothing to do with it's not just limited to wrestling. Is my point. You know, at the end of the day, we're all professionals. You know what I mean? And that's what makes a great boxer a great boxer. You know what I mean? Evander Holyfield was a great boxer because he was professional. Lennox Lewis is one of the all-time greats because he was professional. You know, Mike Tyson, yeah, he would put himself in a dangerous place because that's where he had to draw from. But when he was in there and he was done, he was professional. You know, you listen to his post-fight, he was a professional boxer. You know what I mean? As wild as he was when he was Iron Mike, he was still professional, you know? And that's what we also have to remember, is that we're professional. You know, whether if it's backstage, in the ring, when you're dealing with fans, you're a professional wrestler. You're not just the face of your brand, you're the face of whatever brand you're working for, and you're the face of the business that you're representing, which is professional wrestling. You know, and you got to take that to heart, and you got to respect that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, because people won't respect shit nowadays.
Yeah, and you know, and if we don't respect it, they won't respect it. You know, if we don't believe, no one else will believe. You know what I mean? If we don't go into that ring and believe that what we do is 100% real, regardless if it's considered sports entertainment today or not, it's hard for other people to believe. You know, everybody knows the movies are fake. You know what I mean? Everyone knows the movie's fake. We all know that the actors go home and they're all still alive, but for those hour and a half, that 90 minutes when you bought that ticket, you're there, you're emotionally invested, you suspend that belief, you know what I mean? And you buy in. And that's our job as storytellers and as a wrestler, is to tell that story and get those fans who've already invested. They've already bought the ticket. They're there to see you. You know what I mean? Half the battle's already over. You know, now you just got to tell the story and tell the story right.
Absolutely. Now, the one big question I gotta ask you is: do people need to still keep kayfabe alive, or do you think that's not gonna happen right now in this day and age because of social media and other stuff like that that's out there that's bringing some of these characters out of their element and showing some of their true selves, maybe? Do you think we should still keep kayfabe alive in 2021?
I think we're past the point where you can make that a law, like keeping it alive. I respect everyone who does try their best to keep it alive. You know what I mean? That because it is something. At the end of the day, you know, if we're out here and we're trash talking each other in the ring, and then we're beating each other up, and we're getting the fans to get emotionally invested, right? We're getting them emotionally invested into what we're doing. You know, we kind of go back on that investment if we're right after the match outside hanging out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But to each his own. You know, it's kind of the gates are open on the floodgates already open. It's not up to me or anybody else. I think it's an individual battle for everybody to individually take on their own. If you keep kayfabe alive within context of yourself and within your character, you know, Danhausen keeps kayfabe in his own way, you know, with a Downhausen way. He's kayfabe all the time. He's Danhausen. You know, that's kayfabe. You know, is whatever, however, what version of kayfabe it is, that's kayfabe. You know, so I respect that. You know, I think that it will help, and it helps bring the interest of the fans back, and it's good for the business when you do, because it builds it builds some respect, you know, and it keeps them coming back. You know, if we're all friends and buddies, do I really want to see you guys fight 5 times or 3 times? You know what I mean? Like Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair in '89, you know, when they had their famous trilogy, even though they wrestled a bunch of times, but it was that vitriol and the fact that they weren't, you know, they weren't just buddy in front of everybody, that kept people buying those tickets and kept those houses high because they wanted to see it. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it adds an element, you know what I mean? And if you can do it, it adds another dynamic to what you can do as a character and what you can do as a professional wrestler.
Hey, listen, man. I still say keep kayfabe alive at all times because there's so much social media, there's so much other stuff like that that's out there right now that's getting some of these people to kind of like give different sides. But then I'm like, if you're trying to portray yourself as this, but you do something over here, somewhere in the middle, it's gonna look at it and be like, well, this don't add up. What the hell is this? And then you might never know. Then the whole, you know, marks and stuff like that can come into play and be like, oh, this person ain't not who the hell does it? I'm like, dude, they are normal people, but they're playing a part for us in that ring. The same way how our mothers would sit there and watch soap operas in the mornings. They get mostly invested into it, so they don't give a shit about the person. They give a shit about the damn story.
Right.
And that's how you gotta get these people involved. So but for me personally, as a fan, I still gotta say keep kayfabe alive, folks. So if you see me walking down the street, I'm not buddy with you. Now, if it's my family, that's a different story. But as someone that's not normally in that thing, nah. I'll pull out MGF on my ass. I'm like, get away from me, kid. You know what I mean?
You know,
and just keep it pushing.
That's another good one. MJF, you know, when I took what's up, man, one of our students. When I met MJF the first time at an indie show, this was a couple years ago. And like I said, I took a hiatus away from wrestling. You know, I was busy doing some other stuff in my personal life, and he is who he is all the time. You know what I mean? I wanted to punch him in the face just because that's how good of a heel he is. You know what I mean? He is that. You know what I mean? And that's a good heel. You know, and that's a compliment to him. You know, and everything that he does. I think that you have to commit, because when we're in the ring, if you're trying to be an actor, you're gonna probably fail, because if you're a really good actor, you'll be in Hollywood or you'll be down at Atlanta, Georgia, making films or making TV. You know what I mean? But if you're reacting, you know what I'm saying? You're registering and reacting to what's going on in the ring. So the story that you and your opponent are telling, you're reacting to how the fans are reacting, and you give the fans what they want. The fans will always tell you what they want. You know what I mean? With their reaction to your match. And when you do, if you can keep kayfabe alive to the best of your abilities, it makes it so much easier to get the reactions and to get the emotional investment that we all want. Because when they're invested and they're on the edge of the seat, it's like it's an orgasmic feeling, because there's nothing like it. It doesn't matter if there's 100 fans, 10,000 fans. I can only imagine what it's like when there's that many fans in an arena and they're all on their hands and they're all on their, you know, their feet, standing and giving you a standing ovation. You know, it's a feeling. It's like it's an out of body experience, and it's something that keeps you coming back. You know what I mean? And that's what will get you addicted and make you push through all the pain, all the bruises, all the mat burn, the bumps on the head, the busted lips, the black eyes, the busted noses. That's what makes you push through all this. You know, you just not going.
Now
You hear the big bump.
You coach at your wrestling dojo. How's that been for you, giving back? Yeah, so how's that been for you, giving back to these younger kids and explaining your story to them about being away for so long, but you're coming back to giving what's to basically instruct to them to give as much as you receive.
Because I mean, the business is in the stage that it's in now because so many people just took, and they were very selective on who they gave back to. There's plenty of bad wrestlers out there because of bad gatekeepers, or we don't force them to put the effort that we were forced to put in. So my story to them is always, I was coming up in a time before Facebook, before YouTube, before back when MySpace was just coming out. You know what I mean? So all this stuff that exposes kayfabe and all these things is tools that we didn't have back in the day. We had to physically make a tape, make a DVD, get some, make a highlight thing and mail it. Go to the post office, put it in the mailbox and mail it to a promoter. You know what I mean? And hope to get a return or get a callback. You know what I mean? So all the stuff that's bad is good, but that teaches you the balance, man. It's how you want to work it, man. Facebook, YouTube, all the social media, it's good if you want it. And the world is at your fingertips. You know what I'm saying? Use it the right way. And you just got to use it the right way, man. You got to be willing to put forth the effort and give back, because if you don't give back, everybody leaves. You know what I mean? Healthy competition breeds healthy business. I think the backstage politics haven't served the business well. You know what I mean? If I'm better than you, if I'm better than you and I drive you to get better, and you're better than me, that drives me to get better, and me and you are competing, then our matches are better. The fans get better. The cards get better. The shows are better. The business is better. And that's good. That's good for everybody. Because why the pie gets bigger. And when the pie gets bigger, there's more slices of the pie for everybody around. And the slices get bigger. So healthy competition, you know what I mean? You can't get complacent. You can't get upset if someone's better than you. Some people are just better. You know what I mean? I'm not the best carpenter. You know what I mean? I take pride in what I do, but I know there's a guy that's better than me, but I can work good to be just as good as him. If I want to put the work in, I can be just as good as him, as the next man, So you got to be willing to put the work in. That's what I always emphasize. You got to be willing to put the work in, because no one's going to put the work in for you. That's in life. You know what I mean? That's just with life.
No, for real. That's hitting right in the nail on the coffin with that one, because I totally understand that. And I totally say the same thing to everyone here in this podcast. I'm like, the only way that this thing is going to grow is if we got to put in that work. If we don't put in the work, people is not going to not respect it, not listen to it, and it's going to look at us like we're just another knockoff, cheap-ass piece of shit. And I don't want that for myself. You know what I'm saying? I put a lot of time and effort and craft into this thing that I'm trying to make it to where people can actually respect it. People are going to have fun watching it, but also people understand the wrestling industry, the wrestling business a lot, because the people that are getting in the ring, that's coming here on these shows, talking to me and giving y'all the 411 about what the deal is, put some respect on the motherfuckers' name. You know what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. And from the wrestling ring to a job to a podcast, anything that you do, put in the work, folks. Put in the 110%. Especially if you're doing it by yourself, do for self. And that's going to be the case.
Yep. I mean, at the end of the day, goes back to the old saying, 360, man. You got to keep it 360 all the way around, man. It's the same. Everything's the same. Everything's always the same. You know what I mean? Your approach should always be the same. How you approach every day, it's how you approach your life, how you approach your job, how you approach your family, how you approach anything that you do. It should always be the same. You should always strive to be better. You know what I mean? Whatever you did yesterday isn't good enough for today. You know what I'm saying? And it's not good enough for tomorrow. And that's how you get better, and hopefully everyone around you gets better. You know what I mean? So, we got running the ropes. Hold on. Like, kick in on some training real quick.
Yeah. Show that. Yeah, you see them. You see them, ladies and gentlemen.
Running around a little bit. Blood flowing. But also going back to like what you were saying about there's a lot of guys that were wrestling when I was wrestling that don't wrestle no more. They're all thinking about getting back to it, that either stepped away because they had families and stuff like that. It's great though. It's a great thing. I love wrestling. Wrestling's great. It's a good family, especially on the indie scene. There's nothing like that. You never get that close to fans, and it's an amazing feeling. So
right, it is an amazing feeling. Now, before I let you go, I got one last question. When are we gonna see you after the 13-year hiatus get back in that ring and let us know, hey man, even after 13 years, I'm back?
So I've been working back in FWF over in Indiana, but we do got some things in the work right here. So we have obviously Extreme Fight World's got some things in the works. We got Great Lakes Wrestling Federation also going to be operating out of the Extreme Fight Studios. That'll be popping up soon here shortly, probably after the new year. And we're either after the new year or maybe right before Christmas, we're going to be start running some shows right out of our dojo here, out of the studio. So we got some stuff in the works, and getting back at it, man. So real soon, you'll be seeing me back in the action, probably every week.
Oh, well, that's sooner than expected, folks. So for the people that actually got some want to try to ask that question about when you're gonna come back and stuff like that. Now, at least you know.
All right.
All right, man. You good, man? All right, man. You good? I thought that you were gonna show. I thought you were showing the ropes again. Yeah, I can hear it too. So, like I said, man, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know that you got a class and students to teach, so I just wanted to say thank you for coming on and taking the time out to be here. B for OTTR for the AfterDark episode. Before we even go, this is where we're going to give you your winner circle, to give you plugins, your shout-outs, dropping the links, whatever that we can find you, matches, merchandise, anything of yours that's out there. Here's the top for you to lay it out on the table.
Absolutely. Obviously, you can find me on Facebook at Dios Salvador. Also, you can always send a like to the Extreme Fight World page as well on Facebook and Twitter, Instagram. Our head trainer, Matt Roby, over here working right now. You can always look him up. Rex Brody, he's on there. Some of my older work, you can always find me on YouTube under some all-pro stuff. You can find my matches with Chris Saban, Matt Stryker, Josh Prohibition, and Johnny Gargano, and all those guys from back in the day in the CAPW archives. Obviously, shout out to AIW. Go on there, go over there. You can always find me on some of the early stuff for about the first 5 years over there. So all the stuff's chronicled, and you can find me over there working with all the likes of old school Northeast Ohio legends. Like I said, Matt Cross, Josh Prohibition, Ray Rowe, Vincent Nothing, Christian Faith, all those guys, been in there with a lot of names. I was blessed to work with a lot of them. And today I was blessed to work with another one, and it was great. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate it, and I appreciate the time.
Awesome, man. I got to ask one more favor, man. Can you just do a quick shout for us real quick to say, yo, this is Dios, you know what I'm saying? All that, the shout to OTTR, go hit them up, like, share, subscribe, all that other stuff.
Definitely. So also check in Lost Prodigy, Dios Salvador, aka you can find me, Miguel, on Over the Top Rope OTTR podcast. Send a like, a subscribe, and a share. We appreciate it. We appreciate anything you send our way. Any good vibes, positive vibes. You send it out, it'll come back. So send it our way, and we'll send it back. You know it.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dios. I really appreciate that, man, brother, man. Go handle your dojo training. As always, as for you, ladies and gentlemen, back at home, we bid y'all adieu. We'll catch us later on this week. Peace.
Yeah. Off the ropes, be the podcast of mass destruction. Guess who's here? The OGs of wrestling. Ain't no competition, we report, you gon' listen. Never no mercy, we bring the ring to the streets. If you don't know, you better find out. Off the ropes, here to prove a point. #1 in the league. Bet you don't wanna tussle with us. Know where to hide or run. Step in the ring, you're done. You're never stepping out again.
So you're back on the wolf pack.
Off the ropes, representing that 617 area.
So you're back on the wolf pack.
No other podcast out here more scarier.
So you're back on the wolf pack.
Wrestling entertainment news reported by the Bears.
So you're back on the wolf pack. You might wind up in a body bag.
Took your chances, now it's time to show you what's on. In the ring, off the ropes, best believe that we strong. Day in, day out, off the ropes for life. Shiznit, it's fast crew on the mic. Town be the city where we make our own rules. Stomping on you can't fit our shoes. Off the ropes, a crowd pleaser, conquering like Caesar. Leaning us like pizza when you need your referee up.
So you're back on the wolf pack.
Off the ropes, representing that 617 area.
So you're back on the wolf pack.
No other podcast out here more scarier.
So you're back on the wolf pack.
Wrestling entertainment news reported by the Bears.
So you're back on the wolf pack. You might wind up in a body bag.
You know what I'm saying? The white and black. You heard. Thank you.
So you're back on the wolf pack. 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 You might wind up in a body bag.